Hi class, welcome to ENGL 334W, Technical Writing. This is a writing intensive course, as you guys could have already gathered from the W on the end of the course code and also the syllabus in which I describe the projects. I'm going to be doing these little, I guess we'll call them video lectures or mini video lectures or mini recordings, whatever you want, for each of the 5 segments as a way to, well, 2 reasons really. One, so you get to kind of see who I am and kind of see the face and the person behind who's grading your work and who's creating this class experience for you, but also to provide some context and explanation for each specific segment and projects within each segment or assignments within each segment, just to kind of give you a sense of where I'm coming from and why I designed it the way I did. If you have any questions about any part of the written explanations of the projects or the oral explanations I'm giving through these videos, don't hesitate to email me, obviously, because it's an asynchronous distance course. Obviously, many of you can't kind of swing by my office and ask me questions. If you're an on-campus student, certainly you can, but if you're not, we can have a conversation over email and kind of sort things out, or any questions or challenges that you're having throughout the course of the semester. So what I don't want in a class like this is for you to kind of maybe not do well in the first one and then maybe not do well in the second one and just kind of get really down about the course or get really down about the projects. I want you to stay engaged, stay in touch, even after the first one. If it's maybe not what you expected, do stay in touch and ask me any questions or communicate any concerns you have to me. I'm wide open to anything. So any challenges that you have or any clarity that you want or suggestions that you might be looking for the project. So don't hesitate to email me, because I know that distance education can maybe generate some sense of disconnect sometimes. So again, the reason why I'm doing this video is to kind of mitigate some of that to the best of my ability. So I provide an introduction to technical writing on the main course website. Do note that the course website is the main hub of information. Essentially, that's where all the projects are described in detail, where all your readings are going to be found, because we don't have a textbook, so it's all going to be found there. So make sure to bookmark that and make sure to go there. All the answers you have about formatting, what the project is supposed to be look like, what needs to be read to complete the projects, criteria for assessment, due dates, all that stuff is all on the website. So make sure you read each specific segment before. Just to ensure that you are fully understanding the nature of each segment. The segments will be released consecutively. So as you can see on the website, you're watching this on page segment 1, ideology, right? And then the next segments will be released kind of consecutively. So as soon as the Dropbox for this closes, or for the due date of this passes, the next one will open up. So that's very intentional. That's to mitigate against people doing all the projects all at once and trying to get it over with. The pacing of this course is very intentional, and what I'm looking for in each specific writing assignment requires a level of thoughtfulness and deliberation that requires you to actually use the full allotted time for each segment. So for this first one, for example, I've allotted 3 weeks. So that should communicate to you how much work that I'm expecting of you to put into it, right? So I'm not giving you 3 weeks to do something that can be done in an evening, for example. Otherwise, I would have only given you a week to do it, right? So I'm communicating to you the amount of work and the amount of thoughtfulness that I expect of each in terms of weight and in terms of your time, based upon how many weeks that I allotted it. So let's talk about this first segment then. So you might think, okay, Dr. Richards has given us 3 weeks to write an email and an analysis of it. And yes, that's true. The reason is because, as you can see, there are some readings. There's one reading in particular by Myra Moses and Stephen Katz that's particularly challenging. So I think it's best now to kind of just give some oversight into kind of what this first segment is about and how it's going to set the tone for the remainder of the segments, so all 5 segments. So what this class does is it takes common workplace or professional types of writing genres or experiences or expectations or whatever it is, and it takes something as mundane or banal as an email. And what it does is it asks you to think theoretically and to think more critically about even the most mundane professional writing practices, right? So the purpose behind that is, I don't think, because this is a 300 level English course, I'm not really interested in teaching you how to write the best email, right? Or how do you write an effective email to X, to this person, right? And what are the criteria that we have in this email, right? That can be productive. But also, as an upper division English class, we should expect more of of the way we think about communication, right? And we should be thinking about the structures and the genres and the decisions that we're making in these types of professional communications, because it's only by doing that that you are able to kind of progress and to be able to think more holistically about professional types of writing, all the way from emails to long form reports. So equally important to me is that you're actually practically writing documents that are common in professional settings, while also using theories from rhetoric and theories from communication to maybe deconstruct or take apart or to think a bit more deeply, add that other layer of thoughtfulness and critical thinking to communication. So that's the purpose of this class. So that we kind of have those two values there. Yes, you get to produce these workplace documents and you'll be able to have them at the end of the road. Fantastic. And the goal is for you to generate a professional portfolio that you can take into a job interview or to a professional setting, whatever your field is. And then on the other hand, it's to get you to think critically about these communication structures, right? Otherwise, this would just be kind of a training course on how to write an email, right? I don't really have any interest in just stopping there. So that's kind of an overview of the philosophy of each segment. So you'll see that structure, the theory and the practice, right? That neat little cube that I'm sure all of you will just love and find useful, hopefully. That structure is there for each of the 5 segments: theory, practice, right? So I'm going to be asking you to do that. So what are you doing for this? So I give a suggested timeline about what I think you should be doing over the next 3 weeks. I'll be communicating suggested time. You're no way wedded to that if you want to combine weeks 1 and 2 or do. I'm just trying to communicate to you what I expect in terms of timeline. So this assignment is broken up into 2 parts. The first part is you are actually going to write an email, right, to someone you've never met before about something important. So you think, wow, that's awfully broad. Yes, it is, intentionally so, because I want to give enough leeway for the experiences that you guys inevitably have that are all over the place. So that's the first part. And you're going to use the resources from OWL Purdue to compose an email that is effective, right? So how do you appropriately begin an email? How do you title an email? How long are the paragraphs in an email? What type of tone do you take in an email? How do you sign off on an email? What does your signature look like? Not the actual written signature, of course, but the actual, how in email you can add your signature, right? So there's all these kind of technical and kind of language-based conventions that are there for email. So I want you to kind of use the resources from OWL Purdue and try and create an effective email for a purpose that you have identified. Great, that's step 1, right? But I don't want to stop there, right? Because this is an upper division English class, I want you to think critically about what you just did. So after that, I'm going to have you read that chapter by Meyer Moses and Stephen Katz. I'm not going to lie, it is a very dense philosophical chapter, right? And you might at first be struck by the juxtaposition between the banality of what you just wrote, which is an email that you have written 1,000 times, a couple thousand times, tens of thousands of times, depending on how many years of experience you've had, right? And then a philosophical article talking about the ideology of email, right? So it's intentionally challenging, right? My philosophy in distance education is if you are taking a distance course and you are going to succeed in it, then you have to have a certain level of, I guess, self-direction and kind of ability to work on your own. So I am providing you with that. So I am giving you that chapter. and I want you to read that chapter, and I want you to really think about that chapter. I'm actually allocating a full week for you just to read that chapter, right? And I want you to read it and maybe even reread it and really take your time to understand precisely what they're saying. Because in a way, it's kind of setting the tone for the entire semester. In the sense, if you can, I'll filter down their argument just for the purpose of this video here, right? Obviously, it's a very complex argument, and there are lots of, veins extending from this main argument. But essentially, they're arguing that we haven't thought enough about the ideology inherent in our email practices, right? So you think, okay, what do ideology and email have to do with each other, right? And ideology has been defined in many ways, and you probably heard the term bandied about, especially if you're an English major or professional writing major. You probably heard it bandied about by a variety of professors or students, or if you have any friends in philosophy or communication or anything like that. Ideology is essentially, and I provide a definition there. It's a set of principles that a certain social group abides by, right? So political ideology, right? So what is the Republican political ideology? What is the libertarian political ideology, right? Essentially, it's what are the sets of beliefs that a group have, and that are essentially principles that they use to execute a specific action, right? So there are words that are interchangeable, like what's your kind of political philosophy, what's your approach, right? But ideology is very specific in the sense that it refers to a specific set of beliefs, a belief system that's associated with a specific group, and they're very intentional about it. So the ideology of an email, you have to think about, what do we as an American society in 2018 think about email, right? And what is the ideology of email, and what is the actual practice of writing and receiving emails actually say about our core beliefs as a social group, right? And Moses and Katz go into this in detail. They use Jürgen Habermas's theory of communication, right? So you kind of want to unpack that and maybe even do a web search and see who was Habermas and what is theory of communication, and why is this important, right? And why is the definition between work and play or work and leisure important in his ways of thinking about communication, right? So I would encourage you to do that. So they provide essentially a critique, an ideological critique of email, which is interesting because normally you think of ideological critique of political speeches, literary texts. Maybe you've done this in American literature or British literature course or something like that, or in a speech writing course or public speaking or whatever it is, right? But this type of work also takes place in technical writing when we think about how do we deconstruct exactly what we are doing in an email, right? What is actually going on in an email? What are the power relationships in it? What is, how does email itself reflect the changing nature of the workplace, right? So these kind of larger philosophical questions about email, which, Habermas has a great quote that Moses and Katz talk about how the stuff we use to communicate over time becomes so invisible, it's like nature, it's like air to us, right? And email has become so innocuous and so obvious and so just a part of what we do that we don't really question, okay, what's this actually doing to us? Or how is this changing the way we work? How is this changing the way we communicate, right? So that's what this week is actually asking you to do, or this segment, I should say, over the course of 3 weeks, is you're writing an email, you do that, and then you write a 3-page analysis of the email you wrote. So it's a bit meta in that way, in the sense of you're doing an analysis of the writing that you wrote. I think that's most productive because it's getting you to think recursively about your own writing. So you're actually going to write an analysis of your email. So the decisions you made, how you've addressed, actually looking at the text, the tone, the structure of it. You can talk about the actual email, why are you even choosing email in the first place, right? There are a variety of ways that you can go. So it's a pretty wide open assignment. I would encourage you to read, obviously, the remainder of this webpage below this video in terms of thinking about what are the questions that you can ask that are going to drive your analysis. I would suggest maybe you think about Moses and Katz's article and see kind of how they divide things. Do they divide things in terms of structure and style? Kind of what are the ways that they're thinking about email, and can you use that framework and apply it to your specific context? So I'm not going to lie, we're starting out hitting the ground running. I'm curious to see what you guys make of the chapter. Again, if you have any questions about the chapter or about the nature of the assignment that's not already communicated on the website, obviously don't hesitate to email me. So that's your challenge over the next 3 weeks, right? And this is what this class is going to be about. I'm going to throw something at you, and you have a challenge, and you have 3 to 6 weeks to do it, and then you're going to do it, right? That is, I think, how online classes work best. I don't want to have you upload something every Sunday night where you just do it late Sunday evening and you just kind of put it up, right? I want to kind of challenge you and give you a problem that you can kind of marinate on, or kind of marinate with, that you can think about, that you can think about for however long and kind of go at your own pace and to kind of really chew on it, right? There, that's a better one, for a few weeks. So again, let me know if you have any questions. I'm excited about the course. And you can either, the other thing that you can do if you're just kind of already watching this in YouTube, if you open it up, is you can also leave a YouTube comment as well, and I get a notification. So, all right, good luck, have fun, and I'll post another one of these at the beginning of segment 2 3 weeks from now.